All right, check this out. Elon Musk keeps getting bullied, and he deserves it every single time. The other day, he randomly called Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona a quote-unquote traitor for visiting Ukraine, and I just had the pleasure of chatting with Senator Kelly about Elon Musk, and I'd like to play that interview for you in just 1 second. First, let's run down how we got here. On March 10th, Senator Kelly tweeted this out. Just left Ukraine. What I saw proved to me we can't give up on the Ukrainian people. Everyone wants this war to end, but any agreement has to protect Ukraine's security and can't be a giveaway to Putin. Let me tell you about my trip and why it's important we stand with Ukraine. And Senator Kelly is making the very basic point. In any peace deal, there needs to be security guarantees so Russia can't just reinvade in 5 years, in 7 years, in 9 years, as they do. Putin's entire strategy is to reinvade countries. So then Senator Kelly details, the war started with what Putin would be a 3-day operation. Now, 3 years later, he's essentially failed. Hospitals should never be targets in war, but Putin is a war criminal who targets hospitals routinely. Senator Kelly details how he visited multiple of these hospitals. He then details how the pause of military aid has made it harder for Ukraine to fight against Russia. He says Donald Trump is trying to weaken Ukraine's hand. He talks about his experience flying with pilots, his experience meeting the innovative and young pilots and soldiers. We talk about this all during our interview, but the main aspect right here is that Elon Musk, for no reason, responds, "You are a traitor." Keep in mind, Senator Kelly is a veteran, an astronaut, someone who spent his entire career, his entire life serving our country. But that means nothing to Elon Musk, who spent the past few months firing veterans en masse. So without further ado, now that you know the groundwork, let's jump into my conversation with Senator Kelly. All that I ask from you is you drop a like, spam some blue hearts, and watch until the end. And check this out. Senator Kelly, let's start here very quickly. When Elon Musk and his cabal of unqualified 18-year-old tech bros fire thousands of career civil servants and veterans, what's your response?
It's a horrible thing to do, and he's ruined some people's lives, a lot of people, and a lot of veterans. I had some of these veterans in my office just the other day who their lives have been ruined because of this guy without cause. This unelected billionaire and his cronies, who are a bunch of, 19, 20-year-olds who don't have any life experience, decide on a whim just to can a bunch of people. And some of these guys I spoke to, actually, all of them had like really good performance reports recently, like within the last couple months. And then Elon Musk feels like it's his right to fire them for poor performance in an email. That's what they received. One of these guys was a 100% disabled veteran who fought in Iraq or Afghanistan, I can't remember which, gets this letter, loses his job, and in the last 3 weeks, he's not been able to find another job. And he's going to start a minimum wage job at a restaurant tomorrow. I think he had 3 kids. It's a sad situation, and it's not right. And Elon Musk should reevaluate his purpose in life. It is not this. It's building rockets. He's pretty good at that. Actually, he's really good at that. I'll give him that. And he's okay at building cars.
Yeah, there's stuff that he's good at. I think there's a stereotype with engineers where you're really good in one sector, so you think you can solve any problem that's out there. And Elon Musk seems to be suffering from that a little bit. Remember when he was starting beef with other astronauts on Twitter?
Well, that started with him calling the guy, the commander, I think he's the commander of the space station. He might not be, but the guy on the space station, the Danish guy, who my brother flew in space with. So my brother was an astronaut. I was an astronaut. I flew 4 space shuttle missions. I didn't fly in space with the Danish guy that Elon insulted. Elon called this guy retarded.
Yeah.
Now, how ridiculous is that to insult this guy who is a professional, who my brother flew with, who my brother has tremendous respect for, and then my brother defends the guy, and then Elon drags me into it. Like, what the hell do I have to do with this? Because I'm in the United States Senate. I'm somehow related to his slur against the commander of the space station because I also went to space.
Well, everyone was disgusted when he called you a traitor, but during Elon Musk's last ketamine-fueled fugue state, he called you a traitor for visiting Ukraine. What's your response to Elon Musk?
Elon should go back to building rockets, what he used to do. He is slashed and burned in his job, his so-called job with the federal government, in a way that we have never seen before in our country's history. It's not well thought out. There was no plan. They didn't do any analysis. They didn't let the agency heads get involved in making these decisions. So he should go back to what he used to do, because this has not been productive. But I think it's important for people to remember the reason why he's doing this. He's trying to create some room in the budget so his big tax cuts that he is supporting, Donald Trump's tax cuts for billionaires and multimillionaires, don't look as bad as they would otherwise. That's why he's doing this. That's why he's just randomly firing a bunch of people. These are valuable government employees. By the way, some of them were so valuable, they're like, well, what the hell did we just do? We got to go find these people and hire them back so we don't have some pandemic that we can't deal with, or inspectors of nuclear weapons and nuclear safety. They were firing those guys. How dumb is that? You almost can't get more dumb. And the thing you pointed out, Adam, here I think is important. You get a lot of these, and I don't know if it's so much engineers, you get a lot of like rich guys that are successful that think because they're good at one thing, they're good at everything. He ain't good at this. He's really, really bad at managing how we spend our money.
Yeah, I saw that nuclear stockpile story, and the cherry on top is that when they tried to rehire those people, they couldn't reach out to them because the nuclear stockpile workers were locked out of their federal email. So that slash and burn method that Elon Musk is taking backfired in a huge way because they fired vital people who are uniquely qualified. I guess to pivot over to Ukraine, can you go back into what you saw on the ground there? Because I've got friends in Kyiv. That's something that I really do care about.
But Adam, back to the nuclear guys, just for a second.
Yeah.
People are their jobs are keeping Americans safe from accidents, from the proliferation in some cases of nuclear weapons. So what he has done has made Americans less safe. People need to understand that. In Ukraine, I had an opportunity to meet with these F-16 pilots, one of which I spent some time with in Tucson. And when I met this guy and some of his other squadron mates in Tucson, I was not incredibly impressed. And speaking to the F-16 training squadron there and the commander of the squadron, they were really struggling. They come from a Soviet system of how to fly fighter airplanes, much different than ours. There are things that they do not do, or if they try to do them, they do them very poorly. One of which is flying formation or instrument flying, which when you want to fly in Europe and you're flying an airplane that can operate in all weather, you need to be able to do this at night. You need to be able to do it in bad weather. They weren't really good at that. They were struggling. They were struggling with just basic fighter maneuvers, weapons deployment. It was not going very well. Also, some language issues, as you might expect. I mean, I don't speak any Ukrainian. These guys are struggling with their English, which they needed to be able to speak, to be able to operate in that environment when they were learning how to fly the F-16. Fast forward about a year later, I'm now in Ukraine with them, talking to one of the same guys and some of the folks in his squadron. They've come a long way. And I was quite impressed with what they were able to do and the combat missions that they were able to fly and the success that they were having. One guy shot down 6 cruise missiles / drones on one mission when he had 4 air-to-air missiles. So how do you do that? How do you shoot down 4 things? How do you shoot down 6 things when you only got 4 missiles? That's hard to do. So 2 of them, he had a gun. So using the gun on the cruise missile or on the drone, that's really, really hard to do. When the thing's flying at a different airspeed than you, it's a relatively small target. It's one thing to gun an airplane in a turn, and you can lead turn it. It's another to try to gun something when it's just going straight and level. That's actually harder to do. And it might be very low to the ground. This guy did that. I was quite impressed. And just hearing from what they're doing, they've come a long way, and it's good for the future if this thing continues. I don't want it to continue. I hope we get to a negotiated settlement, a ceasefire here. Russia is going to have to change their position here and end this thing.
Yeah, and just to wrap this up, one thing a lot of conservatives are missing is what you were just touching on. Ukraine is teaching the West a lot about modern day warfare. Throughout Europe, there are now training centers that the Ukrainians have set up, right? And they're relaying the information that they're learning on the battlefield to us. And now we're learning how to fight these wars in the modern day.
Well,
So
they
while
were
you're
that week when we cut them off. Then they weren't. When we cut them off from sending our weapons over and sharing intelligence, we weren't getting that info. Now, is that a big impact for a week? Probably not. Not a big impact on us. Would it be long term? Yes. I'd say the bigger damage that is done if we abandon Ukraine is then we are showing our allies that we are not reliable. And when we do that, who is watching? The Chinese are watching. Chinese watch everything. If they look at us as an unreliable partner, they're not going to look at our alliances as a factor in a fight if they decide to take Taiwan, because they know we're not reliable. So we've got to stick with our allies. The world's a dangerous place, and you only got so many friends, and Ukraine has been a friend to us. They'll also stick with us.
Yep.
And Adam, you are right. I mean, they are now a capable force. These guys have been fighting courageously for 3 years. Their level of kick-assness is pretty damn high. I mean, they can take the fight to an enemy. They've been doing this every single day. They've got experience. I want them on our side. As a combat veteran, I want to keep us out of conflicts, but if we do get in one, we need allies. Ukraine would be a good ally for us.
Yeah. And final question, Senator Kelly. While you're over there helping our European allies fight an authoritarian threat, Elon Musk is calling you a traitor. Can you just explain how funding Ukraine is putting America first?
Well, yeah, first of all, that was kind of a surprise to me. When I was flying in combat over Iraq during the first Gulf War, getting shot at on, almost every time I went up on missions, I didn't expect that there was a 10-year-old kid, sitting in South Africa, who one day was going to become the richest guy in the world and was going to call me a traitor for doing my job. I mean, who saw this coming? It was quite the surprise. I don't take him very seriously. Now he kind of acts like a 12-year-old kid, just hurling around insults. He supposedly has this big job in the Trump administration. He's just doing an incredible amount of damage to our institutions, to our workforce, but to the missions that this government needs to keep people safe, to keep our economy moving forward. He's doing significant damage. So I don't take the guy incredibly seriously, but at the same time, I do worry significantly about the damage he's doing. He's just not a serious person, but he was put into a serious job. He really should go back to making rockets.
Yeah, and the damage he's doing to the information landscape. When he can send out some Kremlin talking point and get 300,000 likes, it does scare me. But we should have a longer form conversation about Ukraine soon, Senator. I really do appreciate you taking the time to talk about it to my Gen Z audience. And thank you for everything you do.
Thank you. Thanks, Adam. Thanks for having me on.
Have a great rest of your day.